The night before the vows. At 11:47 the night before her wedding, Evelyn Hart heard her future husband say 7 words that made every promise he had ever given her sound like a lie. After the wedding, everything will be ours. She stopped halfway down the corridor. The champagne glass in her hand tilted. A cold drop spilled over her fingers. For one strange second, Evelyn thought Adrian was talking to his best man. Perhaps they were discussing the house, the honeymoon, their future. Something ordinary. Then a woman laughed behind the half-closed door. A laugh Evelyn had known since childhood. Her sister's laugh. "Not everything," Claire whispered. "Not immediately." Evelyn forgot how to breathe. The corridor outside the old library was empty except for her. Downstairs, more than 80 guests were still drinking beneath crystal chandeliers, celebrating the rehearsal dinner. A string quartet played somewhere near the terrace. Waiters crossed the marble foyer carrying silver trays. Beyond the windows, the lake reflected hundreds of tiny lights strung through the gardens. Everything about Blackwood Manor looked perfect. Tomorrow afternoon, Evelyn would walk down a flower-covered aisle toward the man she had loved for 4 years. Tomorrow evening she would become Evelyn Vale. And tonight, her fiancé was alone in a locked room with her younger sister. Evelyn placed the champagne glass silently on a narrow console table. Inside the library, Adrian spoke again. "We've waited long enough." Claire lowered her voice. "You're the one who insisted we wait." Because before the marriage, touching the trust would have raised questions. Evelyn's stomach tightened. The trust. Not the house. Not the wedding. The trust. Her grandfather's inheritance. The inheritance no one outside the family was supposed to understand. Evelyn moved closer to the door. Her heels made no sound against the thick carpet. Claire said, "And afterward? Afterward she can authorize the restructuring. She won't do that blindly." Adrian laughed softly. The sound was almost affectionate. That was the worst part. It was the same laugh he used when Evelyn forgot where she had left her phone. The same laugh he used when she burned dinner. The same laugh he had used that morning when he kissed her forehead and told her she was going to be the most beautiful bride he had ever seen. "She trusts me," he said. Evelyn stared at the thin line of golden light beneath the door. Claire answered, "She trusts me too." Silence. Then Adrian said, "Exactly." Evelyn's fingers curled around the fabric of her dress. She was wearing ivory silk. Not her wedding gown. Just the rehearsal dinner dress Claire herself had helped her choose. Claire had zipped it up 3 hours earlier. Claire had stood behind her in the mirror and said, "You deserve this, Evie." Now Evelyn heard something move inside the library. A chair. Footsteps. Then Claire said quietly, "And if she discovers us?" Adrian answered without hesitation, "She won't." "You sound very sure." "I've spent 4 years making sure." 4 years. Evelyn's heart gave one hard, painful beat. 4 years ago, she had met Adrian Vale at a charity exhibition in Boston. He had spilled red wine on her coat. Or at least that was how their story began. He had apologized for 20 minutes. Bought her coffee. Called her 2 days later after, according to him, spending half the night trying to get her number from the event organizer. He had been charming without seeming polished. Ambitious without seeming greedy. Patient when Evelyn was cautious. And Evelyn had been cautious. She had grown up surrounded by people who treated money like oxygen. Her grandfather, Samuel Hart, had built one of the largest privately owned logistics companies on the East Coast. When he died, he left Evelyn controlling interest in the family trust. Not because she was the oldest. Not because she was his favorite. Because, according to the last letter he ever wrote her, she was the one person in the family who understood that money exposed character instead of creating it. Her grandfather had warned her. People will love you for what they imagine standing behind you. Evelyn had spent years proving him wrong. Now, standing outside the library, she wondered whether he had been right about Adrian from the very beginning. Claire spoke again. What if she refuses to sign? She won't. And if she does? There was another pause. Adrian's voice changed. Only slightly. But Evelyn heard it. Then we make her. The music downstairs continued. Someone applauded. Somebody shouted for another bottle of champagne. Evelyn pressed one hand over her mouth. Claire said, Adrian. What? You promised this wouldn't get ugly. It won't. You just said. I said we'll persuade her. How? She'll be my wife. Husbands and wives sign financial documents for each other every day. She reads everything. I know. And her lawyer? Porter is retiring. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Martin Porter. Her family attorney. The man who had handled the Hart Trust for 19 years. He was not retiring. At least, he had never said anything about retiring to her. Adrian continued. She'll replace him eventually. And when she does, we make sure she chooses someone easier. Claire exhaled. You make it sound simple. It is simple. And then Hart Meridian is no longer locked behind a trust she controls alone. And the lake property? Ours. The New York accounts? Ours. The foundation? Eventually. Evelyn closed her eyes. With every word, another memory changed shape. Adrian encouraging her to modernize the trust. Adrian asking innocent questions about voting rights. Adrian joking that her grandfather had designed the estate plan like a medieval fortress. Adrian introducing her to investment managers. Adrian convincing her that married couples should have financial transparency. And Claire asking whether Evelyn planned to keep her maiden name professionally. Claire asking who would inherit if Evelyn died without children. Claire teasing Adrian about becoming Mr. Hart. Evelyn had laughed with them. She had laughed while they measured the walls of the prison they planned to build around her. Then Claire said something that hurt more than all the rest. Do you love her at all? Evelyn opened her eyes. Silence followed. 5 seconds. 10. Long enough for Evelyn to hear blood rushing in her ears. Finally, Adrian answered. I care about her. Claire laughed once. It was not amused. That wasn't my question. You know what this is. I know what we agreed. Then don't become sentimental now. And me. Adrian's voice softened. With you, I don't have to pretend. Evelyn took one step backward. The corridor seemed to tilt. Inside, Claire whispered. Say it. I love you. Evelyn did not cry. Not then. The pain was too clean. Too sharp. Tears belonged to grief. This was something else. This was the moment grief turned into understanding. She stood absolutely still while Adrian kissed her sister behind the library door. She could hear it. A small movement. A breath. Claire murmuring his name. Evelyn looked down at the engagement ring on her hand. A 3-carat emerald-cut diamond surrounded by 2 smaller stones. Adrian had proposed beneath an archway in Florence. Claire had helped him choose the ring. Of course she had. Suddenly Evelyn knew something with terrifying certainty. If she opened that door now, she would lose. They would deny everything. Claire would cry. Adrian would explain. There would be shouting. Guests would hear. Tomorrow's wedding would collapse. And everyone would call Evelyn devastated, humiliated, broken-hearted. They would console her while Adrian and Claire adjusted their story. They would destroy evidence. They would contact whoever else was involved. They would prepare. No. Evelyn slowly lifted her chin. If they believed she knew nothing, they would keep moving exactly as planned. Which meant she would finally know where the plan ended. She stepped away from the door. Quietly. Carefully. Then she picked up her champagne glass and walked back toward the staircase. Her hands were no longer shaking. Evie. Her mother spotted her first. Margaret Hart stood beneath the chandelier in a midnight blue gown, surrounded by cousins, donors, and old family friends. You disappeared. Evelyn smiled. I needed a minute. Are you all right? Perfect. The word came easily. That frightened her. Her mother touched her cheek. You're pale. Too much champagne. Well, don't drink anymore. Tomorrow is going to be exhausting. Tomorrow. Evelyn glanced toward the staircase. Adrian had not appeared yet. Neither had Claire. How long have they been gone? She asked casually. Who? Adrian and Claire. Her mother waved one hand. Oh, Claire went looking for him. Something about the florist changing the table arrangements. Naturally. The perfect excuse. Evelyn smiled again. Of course. Her mother's gaze sharpened. You're nervous. A little. That's normal. Margaret leaned closer. Your father almost drove away the night before our wedding. Evelyn looked at her. Really? He made it halfway to Connecticut before turning around. Why? Fear. Her mother smiled sadly. Marriage gives another person the power to hurt you. Evelyn almost laughed. Instead she said, Did you ever regret giving Dad that power? Margaret studied her daughter for a moment. No. A beat. But I would have regretted giving it to the wrong man. The words landed strangely. Before Evelyn could answer, applause rose from the terrace doors. Adrian entered. He looked exactly as he always did. Tall. Dark suit. Perfect hair. The open expression that photographers loved. No trace of guilt. No nervousness. No evidence that less than 3 minutes earlier he had told another woman he loved her. Claire followed several steps behind him. She was fixing an earring. Her cheeks were flushed. Evelyn watched them separately. Adrian found her across the room and smiled. Claire did not look at Evelyn at first. That was the mistake. Only a second. But Evelyn noticed it now. The hesitation. The tiny glance toward Adrian. Then the performance began. There you are, Claire said brightly. She crossed the room and embraced Evelyn. Her perfume filled Evelyn's lungs. Jasmine. The same perfume Evelyn had smelled on Adrian's jacket twice in the past month. She had assumed Claire had hugged him. She had been right. Just not in the way she imagined. Where were you? Evelyn asked. Claire pulled away. Fixing tomorrow's disaster. What disaster? The florist put ivory roses around the fountain instead of white. Claire rolled her eyes. Apparently civilization was moments from collapse. Evelyn smiled. You saved us. I always do. Behind Claire, Adrian approached. He kissed Evelyn on the temple. There's my bride. Bride. Possession disguised as affection. Evelyn turned to him. For one fraction of a second, she wondered whether her face would betray her. It did not. You vanished, she said. Your uncle cornered me about shipping tariffs. He smiled. Romantic stuff. Claire lifted her champagne. To romance. Evelyn looked between them, then raised her glass. To getting exactly what we deserve. Claire's smile flickered. Adrian laughed. I'll drink to that. And he did. At 1:15 in the morning, Evelyn lay beside Adrian in the bridal suite. Technically, he was not supposed to be there. Her mother had insisted they sleep separately before the ceremony for tradition's sake. Adrian had ignored the tradition. He said he wanted 10 minutes alone with his future wife. Now he lay beside her, one arm around her waist. Evelyn stared into the darkness. You awake? He whispered. Yes. Nervous. Are you? No. He kissed her shoulder. I've never been more certain about anything. Evelyn's eyes remained open. Anything. Anything. She turned toward him. Moonlight crossed his face. She studied the man she had planned to spend the rest of her life with. Why me? She asked. He smiled sleepily. What? Why did you choose me? He chuckled. Cold feet. Answer. Adrian touched her cheek. Because you're brilliant. His thumb moved softly across her skin. Because you're stubborn. A kiss to her forehead. Because you pretend you don't need anyone. Another kiss. And because I knew the first night we met, that someday you were going to let me be the exception. It was beautiful. That was what made him dangerous. He lied like a man describing something sacred. Evelyn whispered, Do you love me? Adrian did not hesitate this time. More than anything. She smiled, then kissed him. Long enough that he never noticed her eyes were open. At 2:03 a.m., Adrian finally returned to his room. Evelyn locked the door behind him. She waited 30 seconds. Then another 30. Only when his footsteps disappeared did she move. She crossed the room, opened her laptop, turned on the small desk lamp, and called Martin Porter. He answered on the 7th ring. Evelyn? His voice was thick with sleep. Do you know what time it is? Yes. Are you all right? No. He became alert immediately. What happened? I need you at Blackwood Manor before sunrise. Silence. Is this about Adrian? Evelyn froze. Martin heard her silence. Evelyn. Why would you ask that? Another pause. Too long. Her pulse accelerated. Martin. I should not discuss this over the phone. You're going to discuss it right now. I can be there at 6. Why did you ask whether this was about Adrian? Martin exhaled. Because 3 weeks ago someone requested certified structural summaries of your trust. Evelyn gripped the phone. Who? The request came through one of our external financial consultants. Name? Victor Lang. Evelyn knew the name. Victor had attended dinner at her apartment 2 months earlier. Adrian had introduced him as an old university friend. What did he request? Ownership structure. Transfer restrictions. Spousal rights. Contingencies after marriage. The room suddenly felt colder. Why didn't you tell me? I did. No, you didn't. I sent you a memo. When? June 3rd. Evelyn opened her email. Search. Nothing. Send it again. I will. Her phone chimed moments later. She opened the forwarded message. There it was. Originally sent June 3rd at 9:14 a.m. to Evelyn's private address. Except Evelyn had never seen it. She searched deleted mail. Nothing. Archive. Nothing. Someone removed it, she whispered. What? Someone deleted your email from my account. Martin was silent. Evelyn thought of Adrian borrowing her laptop in June. Just once. He said his battery had died. How complicated would it be, she asked slowly, to change the terms of my marital property agreement before the ceremony? Martin inhaled. Very. Impossible. No. How fast? Evelyn, what exactly are you planning? She looked at the engagement ring again. Then she removed it. For the first time in 18 months. Underneath the skin was pale. I'm getting married tomorrow. I know. And Adrian believes marriage gives him a path into the heart trust. Martin said nothing. That path exists, doesn't it? Indirectly. Close it. Evelyn. Every door. Some provisions require notice. Then use provisions that don't. There are consequences. For him. For you too. I don't care. You should. I heard him with Claire. Martin stopped breathing for a second. My sister, Evelyn said. The words finally sounded real. He's sleeping with my sister. Martin's voice softened. Then cancel the wedding. No. Evelyn. No. The answer came sharper. If I cancel it, they know I discovered them. They. Adrian isn't doing this alone. You think Claire is involved financially? I know she is. How? Because I heard them discussing the trust. That changed everything. Martin's voice became colder. More professional. What exactly did they say? Evelyn repeated the conversation. Every sentence. Every phrase. She even repeated Adrian saying, asterisk, then we make her. Asterisk. When she finished, Martin was quiet for several seconds. Then he said, do not confront either of them. I wasn't planning to. Do not sign anything they give you. I won't. Do not leave your phone or computer unattended. I understand. And Evelyn? Yes. From now until we meet, assume they have access to more information than you think. A chill moved down her spine. I'll be there at 5:30, Martin said. Bring whatever you need. For what? Evelyn looked toward the wedding gown hanging beyond the bedroom door. White silk. Hand-sewn pearls. A dress that cost more than some people earned in a year. Tomorrow she would put it on. She would walk toward Adrian. She would take his hands. She would listen to him promise fidelity before God, family, and everyone they knew. Then she would say yes. Bring everything necessary, Evelyn said, to make Adrian believe he has one. At 5:41 a.m., Martin Porter entered Blackwood Manor through the kitchen. No one noticed him except Evelyn. And one other person. A woman standing on the second-floor landing. Barefoot. Wrapped in a silk robe. Claire. Evelyn saw her sister watching Martin cross the foyer below. Their eyes met. Claire smiled. Couldn't sleep? Claire asked. Evelyn leaned against the railing. No. Wedding nerves. Something like that. Claire glanced downstairs again. Isn't that Martin Porter? Yes. What is he doing here? Evelyn held her sister's gaze. For half a heartbeat, Claire looked afraid. Then Evelyn smiled. He brought me a wedding present. Claire's expression relaxed. A present before 6 in the morning? You know lawyers. No, Claire said slowly. I really don't. Evelyn walked past her. Then stopped. Oh, Claire. Her sister turned. Yeah. Evelyn looked at the woman she had once trusted with every secret she possessed. You'll stand beside me today, won't you? Claire smiled warmly. Where else would I be? Evelyn nodded. That's what I thought. Then she descended the staircase toward Martin. He was holding a locked leather case. They entered the small breakfast room and closed the doors. Martin placed the case on the table. You understand, he said, that once we do this there may be no clean way back. Evelyn sat opposite him. Good. Martin opened the case. Inside were 6 folders. One bore Adrian Vale's name. One bore Claire Hart's. And one contained a document Evelyn had never seen before. She reached for it. What is this? Martin's face changed. This, he said, is why I almost told you to run. Evelyn opened the folder. The first page contained her full legal name. Beneath it was Adrian's. And beneath that a date. 6 months earlier. She read the heading twice. Then a third time. Her blood went cold. What is this? Martin did not answer immediately. Evelyn looked up. Martin. He finally spoke. Someone has already tried to create a legal claim against your inheritance. Who? Martin pushed another sheet across the table. Evelyn looked down. At the bottom of the page was a signature. Her signature. Perfectly reproduced. Except she had never signed it. And suddenly the betrayal she had overheard in the library no longer looked like the beginning of Adrian's plan. It looked like the end. Because whatever Adrian and Claire intended to do after the wedding, someone had started 6 months ago. Evelyn stared at the signature until the letters stopped looking like her name. It was perfect. The long curve of the E. The slight break between her first and last name. Even the tiny upward stroke at the end that she had developed in college. But she had never signed this document. Who has seen this? She asked. Me, Martin said. And whoever created it. What does it do? Martin turned the document toward himself. In simple terms, it creates the appearance that 6 months ago you approved a restructuring process tied to your marital status. My marital status 6 months ago was unmarried. Exactly. Which is why the document doesn't transfer anything yet. Evelyn looked up. Yet. Martin nodded. It activates after marriage. The word seemed to hang between them. Outside, dawn was beginning to turn the windows gray. In less than 10 hours, hundreds of guests would watch Evelyn marry Adrian. And apparently someone had been waiting 6 months for that exact moment. If I marry him today, she asked, what happens? Not automatically. He would still need additional signatures and approvals. The documents he planned to persuade me to sign afterward. Most likely. Evelyn leaned back. For the first time since overhearing Adrian and Claire, she felt something stronger than heartbreak. Fear. Not fear of losing Adrian. That part of her life was already dead. Fear of discovering how thoroughly she had been studied. This wasn't improvised, she said. No. They planned everything. Yes. How long? Martin hesitated. I don't know. Evelyn looked toward the closed breakfast room doors. 4 years. Martin understood immediately. You think Adrian met you deliberately? I met him at a charity exhibition organized by the Hart Foundation. That doesn't prove anything. He said spilling wine on me was an accident. Evelyn. What if it wasn't? Martin said nothing. And silence was enough. Evelyn stood. Change everything. Martin frowned. Everything? The marital agreement. Trust access. Emergency proxies. Beneficiary permissions. Anything that could give Adrian leverage after the ceremony. Some changes can be made immediately. Others can't. Then change what you can. Martin opened another folder. I prepared something on the drive. You prepared legal documents while driving? I wasn't driving. Despite everything, Evelyn almost smiled. Martin pushed the folder toward her. This amendment keeps your existing trust intact, but places additional restrictions on spousal access. More importantly, any attempt by a spouse or immediate family member to obtain control through fraud triggers an independent review. Evelyn stopped. Immediate family? Yes. Meaning Claire. Yes. She picked up the pen. Martin placed his hand over the page. Before you sign, understand something. What? If Adrian realizes the trap before he acts, you get nothing except protection. I can live with that. If he acts after the marriage believing the old structure still exists, his actions may provide evidence of intent. And Claire? The same. Evelyn looked directly at him. Good. She signed. Her real signature appeared beneath the false one. For a moment the two looked almost identical. Then Evelyn noticed something. Wait. She pulled the forged page closer. My signature is wrong. Martin frowned. You just said it was perfect. It almost is. She pointed at the last letter. I stopped signing like this 8 months ago. Martin leaned closer. Are you certain? My wrist injury. After the accident I changed the angle. Martin's expression hardened. So whoever copied this signature used an older example. Evelyn suddenly remembered something. 8 months ago, Claire had borrowed a folder from her home office. Old foundation documents. Several carried Evelyn's signature. She felt sick. Then someone knocked. 3 soft taps. Martin quickly closed the folders. Evie. Claire called. Evelyn and Martin exchanged a glance. Come in. Claire entered wearing her robe. Her eyes immediately went to the leather case. Then the papers. Then Evelyn. I thought I'd find you here. Why? You disappeared. Claire smiled at Martin. Morning. Claire. What are you two doing? Evelyn answered before Martin could. Changing my will. Claire's face emptied. Only for a second. But Evelyn saw it. My God. Claire laughed. The morning of your wedding? Marriage made me sentimental. About death. About family. Evelyn watched her carefully. I decided that if anything happens to me, everything should go somewhere useful. Claire folded her arms. I thought the trust stayed in the family. It did. Did. There it was. One word too quickly spoken. Evelyn smiled. Relax. I'm not planning to die. Claire laughed. But her eyes remained fixed on the closed folder. I need to steal the bride, she said. Hair and makeup start in 20 minutes. I'll come upstairs. Claire lingered. Adrian doesn't know Martin is here, does he? No. Why not? Evelyn stood. Because my financial affairs aren't Adrian's concern until he's my husband. Claire stared at her. Then smiled. Of course. She left. The moment the door closed, Martin whispered. She knew. I know. She knew enough to be frightened by the word will. I know. Evelyn. This is becoming dangerous. Evelyn picked up her engagement ring and slid it back onto her finger. No. She looked toward the door Claire had just closed. It's becoming useful. By noon, Blackwood Manor had transformed. Florists covered the gardens in white roses. Musicians rehearsed near the lake. Champagne towers glittered beneath the reception tent. 240 guests began arriving. And Evelyn sat before a mirror while Claire arranged the veil over her hair. Their mother cried behind them. My girls, Margaret whispered. Look at you. Evelyn looked at Claire through the mirror. Claire smiled back. For 30 years they had shared birthdays, Christmas mornings, funerals, secrets. When Evelyn was 12, she broke a window and Claire took the blame. When Claire's first boyfriend cheated, Evelyn drove 6 hours through a snowstorm to bring her home. When their father died, Claire slept beside Evelyn for a week, because neither wanted to be alone. How did a person become a stranger without changing her face? You're staring, Claire said. Just remembering. What? Us. Something flickered behind Claire's eyes. Then she squeezed Evelyn's shoulder. Don't make me cry before the photographs. A bridesmaid entered carrying a small white box. This came for Evelyn. From whom? No name. Claire reached for it. Evelyn took it first. Inside was an envelope. She opened it. One sentence had been typed on a plain piece of paper. Do not marry Adrian Vale. He is not who you think he is. Evelyn's pulse jumped. Claire read over her shoulder. Her face changed. What the hell? Their mother stepped forward. What is it? Nothing, Evelyn said. Claire grabbed the note. Nothing? Someone is threatening you. It isn't a threat. Then what is it? Evelyn watched her sister. I don't know. Claire immediately turned toward the door. We need Adrian. No. Claire stopped. Why not? Because whoever sent this wants me frightened. Evie. I'm getting married. Claire stared at her, then slowly relaxed. You're sure? Evelyn smiled. Completely. For the first time that day, Claire looked genuinely relieved. That told Evelyn everything she needed to know. Almost. Because 5 minutes later, while everyone was distracted by the photographer, Evelyn slipped the anonymous note into her handbag. Something was written on the back. She had noticed the faint impression when Claire held it toward the window. A second message. Handwritten. Just 4 words. Ask Adrian about Florence. Evelyn's heart stopped. Florence. The city where Adrian had proposed. She turned the note over again. There was no signature. But beneath the 4 words was a telephone number. Evelyn quietly photographed it, then deleted the image from her main gallery and sent it to Martin. His reply came less than 2 minutes later. I know this number. Evelyn typed. Whose is it? The typing bubble appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally Martin sent the answer. Evelyn read it twice, then slowly lifted her eyes toward the mirror. Claire was standing behind her, smiling as she adjusted the veil. On Evelyn's phone were 5 words from Martin. It belonged to your grandfather. Evelyn stared at the message. Samuel Hart had been dead for 3 years. Yet someone had just sent her a warning from his old number. And suddenly the wedding was no longer merely a trap for Adrian. Someone else had been waiting for Evelyn to reach the altar too. Evelyn read Martin's message again. It belonged to your grandfather. For 3 years, Samuel Hart's number had been disconnected. Evelyn remembered because she had called it once after his funeral. Not intentionally. Grief had made her forget. For 3 rings she had waited for the impossible. Then a recorded voice told her the number was no longer in service. Now someone was using it. Everything okay? Claire asked. Evelyn locked her phone. Perfect. Claire smiled. Good. Because Adrian is waiting. So was Evelyn. But not for the reason Claire believed. 20 minutes before the ceremony, Evelyn locked herself inside the bathroom and called Martin. How can someone have grandfather's number? It was originally registered through Heart Meridian, Martin said. The company may have retained it. Who could reactivate it? I'm checking. And Florence. Silence. Martin. There's something I never told you. Evelyn's stomach tightened. Apparently today is the day everyone tells me things they never told me. Your grandfather investigated Adrian. The room seemed to shrink. When? Shortly after you started dating. You knew. Yes. And said nothing? Samuel ordered me not to. Evelyn gripped the sink. What did he find? Not enough. That was the problem. What does that mean? Adrian's history looked too clean. Martin continued. Employment records, university history, finances. Everything existed. Everything checked out. That sounds normal. Your grandfather didn't think so. Why? Because real people are messy. Evelyn looked at herself in the mirror. The perfect bride. The perfect groom. The perfect wedding. Maybe perfection had always been the warning. Did grandfather go to Florence? Martin became silent. Martin. Yes. Evelyn stopped breathing. When? The week Adrian proposed. A knock hit the bathroom door. Evie. Claire called. 5 minutes. Evelyn covered the phone. Coming. Then whispered. Why was grandfather there? I don't know. Find out. She disconnected. When she opened the door, Claire stood waiting. You look pale. Wedding nerves. Claire took her hand. For one unbearable moment, she looked like Evelyn's little sister again. Evie, Claire whispered. You know you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Evelyn studied her. Was that guilt? A warning? Or another performance? Are you telling me not to marry Adrian? Claire's eyes widened. No. God, no. Too fast. I'm saying I want you happy. I am. Claire nodded. Then let's get you married. The garden fell silent when Evelyn appeared. 240 guests rose. At the end of the aisle stood Adrian. Handsome. Calm. Smiling. He looked at Evelyn as though she were the only person alive. For one dangerous second, her heart remembered loving him. Then she saw Claire take her place near the altar. Claire looked at Adrian. Adrian looked back. Half a second. That was all. But now Evelyn could see the language between them. She began walking. Every step brought her closer to the man who had betrayed her, and closer to whatever her grandfather had discovered. When she reached Adrian, he took her hands. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "So are your lies," she wanted to answer. Instead, "Thank you." The officiant began. Evelyn barely heard him. She noticed Adrian's thumb rubbing the back of her hand. He always did that when nervous. Interesting. Maybe the groom wasn't as confident as he looked. Then came the vows. Adrian spoke first. "Evelyn, from the moment you entered my life, I knew there would never be anyone else." Behind Evelyn, Claire lowered her eyes. Evelyn almost smiled. Adrian continued. "I promise to protect you, honor you and remain faithful to you for every day that we are given." The cruelty was almost artistic. Then the officiant turned to Evelyn. "Do you, Evelyn Rose Hart, take Adrian Thomas Vale to be your lawfully wedded husband?" The garden became utterly still. This was the moment. She could destroy him publicly. She could turn toward the guests and tell them everything. Instead, Evelyn looked into Adrian's eyes and smiled. "I do." Relief flashed across his face. Claire exhaled. And Martin Porter, standing near the final row, quietly checked his watch. The trap had begun. At 4:18 p.m., Evelyn Hart became Evelyn Vale. At 4:23, Adrian kissed her before 240 witnesses. At 4:31, Claire hugged her and whispered, "You did it." Evelyn hugged her back. "No," she whispered. "We did." Claire stiffened. "Only slightly." "What?" Evelyn pulled away smiling. "I couldn't have done this without you." Claire laughed nervously. "Obviously." Across the garden, Martin's phone vibrated. He read the message, then immediately looked at Evelyn. Something was wrong. During photographs, Martin approached her. "We need 30 seconds. Adrian noticed. "Legal trouble on our wedding day?" Martin smiled politely. "Foundation paperwork. She's my wife now. Can it wait?" The sentence was casual, but Evelyn heard the ownership in it. Martin did too. 30 seconds, Evelyn said. Adrian kissed her cheek. "Don't disappear." Martin led her behind the conservatory. "What happened?" "I traced the number. And it was reactivated 11 months ago." "By whom?" "Your grandfather." Evelyn stared at him. "That's impossible." "I know." "He was dead." "I know." "Then how?" The authorization carried Samuel's security credentials. Evelyn felt cold. Someone had his credentials? Apparently. Who? "I found something else." Martin handed her his phone. A scanned hotel record appeared. Florence. 4 years earlier. The week Evelyn met Adrian. She looked at the guest names. Samuel Hart. Martin pointed beneath it. Another room. Registered the same night. Adrian Vale. Evelyn frowned. That was months before Adrian told me he'd ever been to Florence. Keep reading. There was a third name. Evelyn did. And the world seemed to tilt. Claire Hart. No. Evelyn. No. Claire wasn't in Florence. She was. She told me she was in London. The hotel has passport verification. Evelyn stared toward the reception lawn. Claire was laughing with the bridesmaids. 4 years ago, before Evelyn and Adrian were officially together, Adrian and Claire had been in the same hotel. With her grandfather. "This started before me," Evelyn whispered. Martin nodded. Then his phone vibrated. A new message. From Samuel Hart's old number. Martin opened it. "You are looking in the wrong direction." Below it was a photograph. Taken moments ago. Evelyn standing beside Martin behind the conservatory. Someone at the wedding was watching them. Martin looked around. Don't react. Another message arrived. This one contained only 3 words. Watch the groom. Evelyn turned carefully. Across the lawn, Adrian stood alone beside the champagne table. He had removed something from his jacket. A small envelope. He looked left, right, then handed it to a waiter Evelyn had never seen before. The waiter disappeared inside the manor. Who is that? Evelyn whispered. Martin frowned. I don't know. Evelyn lifted her dress. Where are you going? To find out. She entered through the side doors. At the end of the corridor, the waiter vanished into the old library, the same room where Evelyn had overheard Adrian and Claire. She followed. The door was open. The room was empty, but Adrian's envelope lay on the desk. Evelyn approached. Her name was written across the front. She opened it. Inside was a copy of a financial authorization and a handwritten note. Have your wife sign before midnight. Evelyn's blood went cold. There was no signature beneath the message. There was only an initial. C. Claire. Evelyn heard footsteps behind her. She turned. The library door closed. A lock clicked. Someone was inside with her. You really should have canceled the wedding. Evelyn recognized the voice. But it wasn't Claire. It wasn't Adrian. She slowly turned toward the shadow beside the bookcase. And for the first time that day, Evelyn finally understood why her grandfather had gone to Florence. The man stepped out from behind the bookcase. Evelyn's breath caught. Uncle Charles. Her father's younger brother smiled faintly. Charles' heart had spent most of the wedding avoiding her. Evelyn had assumed it was because they had never been close. Now she understood. You sent the messages. Some of them. Using grandfather's number? He gave me access before he died. Evelyn held up Adrian's envelope. What is happening? Charles glanced at the locked door. You have about 3 minutes before Adrian realizes this envelope never reached its destination. Then talk. 4 years ago, your grandfather discovered money disappearing from Heart Meridian through shell companies. He traced one of them to Adrian. Evelyn felt the floor shift beneath her. Adrian knew my grandfather before he met me? Yes. And Claire. Charles's expression darkened. She knew Adrian too. Evelyn remembered the Florence hotel record. They were together. Not exactly. Charles moved closer. Claire was helping Samuel investigate him. Evelyn stared. No. At first she was. Those last 2 words changed everything. At first. Samuel sent Claire to Florence because Adrian trusted her. She was supposed to discover who he worked for. And instead, she fell in love with him. Evelyn's stomach turned. So Adrian didn't seduce Claire after becoming engaged to me. No. They were already involved. Charles nodded. Before your first date. The cruelty of it almost made Evelyn laugh. Her entire romance had been built inside someone else's affair. Why me? Because Samuel changed his inheritance plan. Charles looked directly at her. He discovered Claire had betrayed him. So he placed controlling power in your hands. And Adrian came after me. Yes. A knock sounded at the library door. Evelyn. Adrian. Charles whispered. Don't tell him you know. She almost smiled. He already thinks I know nothing. Keep it that way. Adrian knocked again. Evie. Charles opened a narrow servant's door hidden behind the shelves. Before disappearing, he said, One more thing. The initial on that note isn't Claire's. Evelyn looked down. See. Then whose? Charles's face hardened. Mine. He disappeared. Evelyn froze. What? Adrian tried the handle. Evelyn. She shoved the document into her dress and unlocked the door. Adrian entered. What were you doing? Looking for somewhere quiet. He studied her. Alone. Should I need permission now that we're married? His expression changed immediately. Of course not. He kissed her forehead. But Evelyn noticed his eyes moving toward the desk. Searching for the envelope. He knew. Come on, he said. Everyone's waiting for our first dance. At the reception, Evelyn danced in Adrian's arms while trying to understand Charles's confession. If C meant Charles, then her uncle had instructed Adrian to obtain her signature. But Charles had also warned her. Which side was he on? Perhaps there were no sides anymore. Only people trying to reach the inheritance first. You're distracted, Adrian whispered. I'm married. He smiled. Regretting it already? Ask me tomorrow. His smile faltered. Then applause erupted as the music ended. Claire approached with champagne. To my favorite married couple. Evelyn accepted a glass. Claire, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you remember Florence? The color vanished from Claire's face. Adrian went perfectly still. There. Evelyn had finally frightened both of them. Florence. Claire repeated. 4 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about. Adrian interrupted. Evie, people are waiting for the cake. But Evelyn kept watching Claire. Grandfather was there too. Claire dropped her glass. It shattered. Guests turned. Claire stared at Evelyn as if she had seen a ghost. Who told you? Adrian grabbed Claire's arm. Enough. That was his mistake. Not the words. The fear behind them. Evelyn smiled. You two should really coordinate your lies better. She walked away. At 11:38 p.m. Evelyn found Martin waiting upstairs. The documents are secure, he said. If Adrian tries anything tonight, he gets nothing. What about Charles? Martin frowned. What about him? He says he helped grandfather investigate Adrian. Martin went pale. He told you that? Yes. Evelyn, Samuel never trusted Charles. Her heart sank. Why? Because the missing money wasn't traced to Adrian. Martin unlocked his case and removed an old investigation report. It was traced to Charles. Evelyn stared at the page. Then why would Charles warn me? I don't know. Her phone vibrated. A message from Adrian. Come to the library. We need to talk. Then another message appeared. From Samuel's old number. Don't go to the library. And immediately after that, Claire called. Evelyn answered. Her sister was crying. Evie, listen to me. Adrian knows you changed something. How? I told him. Evelyn closed her eyes. Of course. Why are you telling me? Because this was never supposed to happen. What wasn't? Claire began sobbing. Adrian wasn't supposed to marry you. Evelyn went still. What? He was supposed to make you trust him. That was all. Then why the wedding? Because someone changed the plan. Who? Before Claire could answer, a man shouted in the background. Then the line went dead. Evelyn looked at Martin. Where is Claire? They ran downstairs. The library doors stood open. Adrian was gone. Charles was gone. And Claire's phone lay shattered on the floor. Beside it was a photograph from Florence. 4 people stood outside a restaurant. Samuel, Claire, Adrian, and the 4th person made Evelyn's blood turn cold. Martin Porter. Evelyn slowly raised her eyes. Martin stood behind her. For the first time, his calm expression disappeared. You weren't supposed to find that, he whispered. Then he locked the library door. The click of the lock sounded louder than the wedding music beyond the walls. Evelyn turned. Martin Porter stood between her and the door. The man she had trusted to protect her inheritance. The man who had helped her rewrite the documents that morning. The man standing in the Florence photograph beside Adrian, Claire and her grandfather. You knew Adrian before I met him, Evelyn said. Martin's face was exhausted rather than guilty. Yes. How long? 6 years. Her stomach tightened. Then everything you did this morning was real. You expect me to believe that? No. I expect you to survive long enough to understand it. Martin reached into his jacket. Evelyn stepped backward. Don't. He slowly removed a key. Not a weapon. He placed it on the desk. Samuel brought us to Florence because he had discovered Charles was stealing from Heart Meridian. Adrian was working for Charles. And Claire. Samuel recruited her to get close to Adrian. Evelyn laughed bitterly. She succeeded. Too well. Martin nodded toward the photograph. Adrian fell for Claire. Claire fell for Adrian. Then Charles discovered what she was doing. And I became the replacement target. Yes. Evelyn's eyes burned. So Adrian spent 4 years pretending to love me for money. At first. At first. Martin looked at her carefully. That is what makes this complicated. I don't care whether he developed feelings. You should. Because Adrian stopped cooperating with Charles 8 months ago. Evelyn remembered the forged signature. 8 months. The timing wasn't coincidence. Who forged my name? Charles. Why? Because Adrian refused to continue. A terrible possibility formed. The conversation I overheard last night may not have meant what you thought. Evelyn shook her head. I heard Adrian tell Claire he loved her. Yes. That seems fairly clear. It is. Martin did not soften it. Adrian loves Claire. But Claire wanted out. Then why discuss taking my inheritance? Because Charles was listening. Evelyn went silent. They knew. Claire suspected the library was monitored. They were feeding Charles what he wanted to hear while trying to identify his final move. Without telling me. That was Samuel's mistake too. Martin looked ashamed. Everyone kept deciding you were safe or ignorant. A sound came from the corridor. Running footsteps. Then Claire screamed. Evelyn. Martin unlocked the door. Claire stumbled inside. Her dress was torn at the shoulder. Charles has Adrian. Where? The boathouse. Claire grabbed Evelyn's hands. Evie, I'm sorry. Evelyn pulled away. No. You don't get forgiveness because you're frightened. Claire's face crumpled. I know. You slept with my fiancé. I loved him before he became your fiancé. That makes it worse. I know. You watched me fall in love with him. I know. You stood beside me today. Claire whispered. I know. Evelyn looked at her sister and realized something strange. She didn't hate Claire. Not yet. Hatred required certainty. What Evelyn felt was emptier. You'll tell me everything, she said. If we get through tonight. No. Evelyn took the key from the desk. When? The boathouse was dark except for one hanging lamp. Charles stood near the water. Adrian sat in a chair, blood running from his lip. On the table between them lay a stack of documents. Charles smiled when Evelyn entered. The bride. Claire moved forward. Let him go. Charles laughed. You still think this is about him? His eyes settled on Evelyn. Your grandfather always underestimated me. No, Evelyn said. Apparently he understood you perfectly. Charles's smile vanished. Sign. He pushed the papers toward her. Transfer authorization. Evelyn looked down. You forged my signature once. Why need the real thing? Because your lawyer changed the trust this morning. Charles glanced toward Martin. An irritating surprise. Evelyn understood. He knew. Which meant someone had been watching Martin from the beginning. Sign and this ends. Evelyn picked up the pen. Adrian struggled against the chair. Don't. Charles struck him. Claire screamed. Evelyn didn't. She simply looked at Adrian. Did you ever love me? Even Charles seemed surprised by the question. Adrian lifted his bleeding face. I tried. Wrong answer. But perhaps the first honest one he had ever given her. Evelyn nodded. Thank you. Then she signed. Claire stared at her. Evie. Charles snatched the document. For several seconds he read it. Then he began laughing. Samuel was wrong about you. Evelyn smiled. No. He wasn't. Charles stopped. She looked at her watch. Midnight. 12:01. Martin. Martin stepped forward. The amendment Evelyn executed this morning became effective immediately upon completion of the marriage ceremony. Charles's face changed. The document you just forced her to sign transfers nothing. Evelyn continued. But it does something else. Martin smiled coldly. It records an attempted fraudulent transfer under the trust's protection provisions. Charles stared at the paper. Then toward the windows. Blue lights appeared beyond the trees. Police. Evelyn had not merely changed the documents that morning. She had authorized Martin to notify investigators the moment anyone attempted to use the forged structure. The signature Charles demanded was the final evidence they needed. The trap had closed. Not around Adrian. Around the person controlling him. Charles lunged toward Evelyn. Adrian threw himself sideways, knocking Charles into the table. Martin pulled Evelyn back. Seconds later, Officers flooded the boathouse. Charles was dragged to the floor. And just like that, 4 years of lies ended beneath one flickering lamp. Dawn arrived quietly. The guests had gone. The flowers were beginning to wilt. Evelyn stood alone on the terrace wearing the same wedding dress. Claire approached. Adrian told the police everything. Good. He'll probably still be charged. He should be. Claire swallowed. And me. Evelyn finally looked at her. You want to know whether I forgive you? Claire's eyes filled. Yes. I don't. Claire nodded. A tear slipped down her cheek. Maybe someday? Evelyn looked toward the lake. Maybe someday I'll understand you. It wasn't forgiveness. But it wasn't nothing. Claire walked away. Adrian appeared several minutes later, escorted by an officer. He had asked for 1 minute. Evelyn allowed it. He stopped before her. Their wedding bands looked absurd now. I'm sorry, he said. For which part? All of it. She studied him. Was spilling wine on me planned? His eyes lowered. Yes. That hurt more than she expected. The proposal? Planned. Florence. Yes. The wedding. At first. And last night. Adrian closed his eyes. Real. His love for Claire. Real. Evelyn nodded. Strangely, that truth freed her more than any apology could. She removed her wedding ring. Placed it in his palm. You spent 4 years waiting to own what belonged to me. Adrian looked at the ring. Evelyn stepped closer. But you never understood what my grandfather understood. What? My inheritance was never the money. She walked past him. At the terrace doors, Martin waited. He handed her an envelope. We found this in Samuel's private archive. Evelyn recognized her grandfather's handwriting. She opened it. Inside was one sentence. If they ever make you choose between keeping the fortune and discovering who people truly are, choose the truth. The fortune can be rebuilt. You cannot. Evelyn read it twice. Then folded the letter carefully. Behind her stood a ruined wedding. A husband she would annul before the flowers died. A sister she might never trust again. An uncle in handcuffs. And an inheritance everyone had mistaken for the most valuable thing she possessed. Evelyn walked through the manor. Past the empty champagne glasses. Past the abandoned gifts. Past the altar where she had smiled and said yes. At the front entrance she stopped. Her mother stood there. What happens now? Margaret asked. Evelyn looked back once. At everything she had nearly mistaken for a perfect life. Then she smiled. Not the smile she had given Adrian. Not the smile she had worn at the altar. This one belonged entirely to her. Now, Evelyn said, I decide what's mine. And for the first time since hearing 7 devastating words outside the library. After the wedding, everything will be ours. Asterisk asterisk. Evelyn understood the answer she should have given from the beginning. Nothing was theirs. Not her fortune. Not her future. Not even the broken pieces of her heart. Those belonged to her too. And she intended to decide very carefully what she would build from them.